Welcome back to the program. Thanks for staying with us. We're talking about what ails Kenyan football, and we have a hybrid format with guests here in studio and others joining us virtually as well. We've barely scratched the surface. Lots to talk about in the world of football. And these are some of your comments this evening using the hashtag Monday Report and the SMS line 2242. Let's put up the first tweet. All right, here we have the first one. This one is written in by, who's that? Orutwa Sam. You say, what miracle can you expect in FKF when we haven't seen anything good in the management of the country? Like son, like father. It's all inherited trends that it happens in Kenya. It happens in all institutions. So you see a link between the running of the country and the running of football? Okay. KNM Togo, you say our problem is beyond even football. It stretches to other spheres of influence in society. Transparency, accountability, and integrity to run an organization are lacking where anything goes. We lack the structures in this country to run our affairs. All right, I think we take maybe one or two more. Wanzala, you say, with the kind of revelation of embezzlement, it shows that former officials were having a good time. Well, the courts will have the final say on that, I must say. But you say, unfortunate that faithfulness as stewards of public resources is a hard thing to achieve in Kenya. Nevertheless, we wait upon the courts to declare guilty or not guilty. Okay, so I needed to allow Brenda to speak, and we also have Bwana Dexter Otieno and Jaro Soji as well. But there's a lady called Judith Nyangi who wanted to weigh in as well. Nyangi, I can give you a minute just to tell us, and I trust you can hear me. She's joining us on phone. Some are saying if you want to fix Kenyan football nationally, you must deal with the clubs. Fix it at the club level. Do you agree with that as a sports official?
Yeah, I agree on that, Maura.
Okay, why? What's your justification?
First and foremost, our top clubs in Kenya have not been run professionally from the word go. You find that in a club, it's like a one-man show. They don't want to have structures to run the club. And this is where most of the problems come. You find, for example, when there's a chairman, he wants to run the show. He wants to be chairman, secretary, treasurer, and everything in the club. So this is where the impunity starts.
Okay, you're really speaking a lot of what some would say are truths. But you've served as an organizing secretary of a club. Were you also part of that then, in that case?
You see, when I was organizing secretary of the club, you would attend some meetings. You would attend meetings.
Who would attend meetings?
The same meeting. Afterwards, what is happening is different from what you passed in the meeting. You say one thing today, tomorrow you see things that are happening are not what you passed in the meeting. And this is what has been happening.
Okay, Nyangi, very interesting. Brenda, man, it sounds like there's a lot happening in the world of football, both at the national and at the... Can laws help us? We've been told about statutes and regulations and so forth, but they're only as good as the human beings who implement them. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, it's true. You said we do not need any further legislations to regularize or professionalize the Kenyan football scene, because be it the clubs, be it the national teams, they are all being run in a way that do not reflect the kind of laws we have. The Sports Act came into force in 2013, and unfortunately, all clubs are supposed to comply with it. The FIFA, the FKF is supposed to help FIFA in giving the club licenses for them to participate in international tournaments. But what do we see? If we were strictly to adhere to what FIFA requires of clubs for them to participate by tabling their finances, showing that they do have a way forward, like they can run their clubs up to the end of the season, they can sustain themselves, pay their players' salaries, pay their staff salaries, then I think only 3 teams in Kenya, in the current FKF Premier League as it is constituted, would suffice, which I don't even think any team would really show that they are able to sustain themselves. Because number one, we do have these clubs being run by people who are learned, well-traveled, well-exposed, But what do we see them doing at the clubs? It's a total mess. The officials would want to run away with this, that we have leaders and they're not working, or it's a one-man show and everything. But what do you do if the office that you occupy does not allow you to perform your roles? You quit. If you feel like I'm not going to perform my roles because Chapter 6 of the Constitution binds you as Kenya, an individual.
Quitting is the last.
Yeah, they'd rather die than resign.
Option.
I mean, everyone wants to fight, and you see people fighting and people giving their all to get into elective positions that they do say are non-salaried. So what benefits are there? Because everyone gets in there and forgets what took them there. It's such a shame that 58 years down the line, 57 years for AFC and Gor Mahia, the two biggest community clubs in Kenya, you look at where their peers are. We're talking TP Mazembe, we're talking Zamalek. You look at the kind of structures that the teams have and where they get, where they have reached as in their football, their club football. And it's a pity that we are still struggling here. There's none of these clubs have a known, let's not even talk of a playing stadium, a playing ground or something, even training facilities. We still see Gor Mahia being locked out of Camp Toyoyo because they cannot afford 3,500 for training to just pay the training grounds. And this is a team that has been in existence the longest. AFC Leopards the same. So it doesn't matter the number of legislations that we will have if we do not channel our ideas to the right things that we should be doing as a nation, or the leadership of the football do not channel their energies towards building this sport that we so love, then we are not going to head anywhere. We cannot lay all the blame on FKF. They carry the biggest burden, yes, but we as other stakeholders also do have our fair share of the blame, because you interact with fans and you ask them, okay, fine, why do you fancy other leagues and you do not want to support your local league? We're quite a handful. They will tell you what's there to watch. Number one, most people always quote insecurity in stadiums, hooliganism, or the matches are not publicized, hatujui ticket inauzwa wapi, and all such kind of things. So it's upon all of us. I mean, it is you to make your home what you want it to be. For you to be comfortable, start supporting it, like tafuta, where are they playing, find that information. It may not be readily available, but then that again takes us back to the leadership. Make this information available. Make me feel comfortable buying that ticket, knowing very well that the money that I use to purchase this will go towards the right people. It's a shame that you talk to KPL players and they tell you they haven't been paid in 7 months. What is FKF doing about it? Because FKF are FIFA representatives down here. So the FIFA itself provides that if a player has not been paid for 3 months, they're free to leave. But what happens? Do they have bodies that they can complain to? We have several bodies coming up to protect the welfare of players, but what do? Nothing.
Maybe write a statement if you're lucky. Dexter, before I allow you in, Jaro, the sentiment we're getting here is many feel that AFC Leopards, Gor Mahia should be much further by now. Do you hold the same view? Ama Gor iko sawa?
First,
AFC iko sawa?
First, Waiga, I want to agree with my neighbor, Taiwo Atieno.
Oh, is your neighbor?
He's my neighbor. I come from Kogelo, I come from Gemkawuda. We're just, we are neighbors, by the way. Now,
you've made your point.
He said a very important thing that if you compare, and you will agree with me, we kitambo ulikuwa nakuja study, and uko lucky siku hizi ukuje. If you compare wakati wa Kenya Premier League ilikuwa inaendesha ball na wasa FKF, kuna tofauti kubwa sana. Mwaura, wewe ni president wa shirikisho. Unamuka siku moja, and just like Nyagi said, Football Kenya Federation was a one-man show. Unamuka siku moja, unasema Gor na FC waende wacheze Thika.
But she was also saying clubs are also one-man shows. Don't misquote her.
Unamuka siku moja, okay. Unamuka siku moja, unasema Gor na FC waende wacheze Ruaraka. Waiga, kama wewe ni president wa shirikisho, ile kikombe ya netball, unatuambia ulibuy 5 million. Are we playing netball or football? Kikombe iko na mchana surely. Bana, tuseme ukweli. Tuseme ukweli. See,
so you blame, what are you saying? This means you blame
something, please.
Bwana, is that you?
Yes. Yes.
What are you saying? Go ahead.
I'm just thinking that if we are not careful, we may miss the biggest opportunity that this has presented us. We may be focusing on the negatives, but there's one big positive that people should look at. We are in this situation because some people did their work. The Ministry of Sport has done its work. And as you said correctly, it remains for the courts to judge whether guilty or not. There are some sports journalists who have put a lot of work into this. There are fans who, however few they are, who have stamped their foot and said, no, we have to get it right. I've just finished reading The Age of Football by David Goldberg. I'm talking about certain revolutions that have happened in sport. And I wish this would be a revolutionary moment for all of us and have to, pump in some positive energy into coming up with what we think we can bequeath future generations of something beautiful to look at. The two big clubs, or if any club is worth its salt, should come up and say, this is our moment to turn around things. As I say, and I still believe, the way to building Kenya's football is to develop and strengthen the clubs. If these clubs can now take this as a turnaround point, as a turning point, and say, we want to develop ourselves, because it is only through the strength of clubs. And as I said, we may not get a ban. What if we don't get a ban? Ban or not, we need to see how these clubs can be strengthened, and there's only one way to strengthen them. Get people who are not going for meetings. Get people who are workers. Let's get people who are selfless workers who want to turn around, share one vision of turning around these clubs. Because it is only by these clubs getting strong that we can get a proper national outfit.
Tom Bwana, very interesting views there. He's a football journalist, commentator. He's also played some administration role there as well. Dexter, are you feeling like this? It's the time for revolution in football, or you felt this before? Tumekuwa hapa before, change G and comers was expected. What are you feeling? Tom Bwana says maybe.
I think, Waiga, before we even come into a revolution, before we even talk about revolution, first, there's a lot that has been said here. And one thing that I'm getting, and this is something that is happening a lot, is that we are not a people who like to find solution. We like to apportion blame. This thing is at our doorstep, now we want to blame the other person. When it is something that it is of concern to us, it is in our own courtyard. For example, we're just talking about how these clubs should actually run. But in the midst of that, you find us throwing the blame to the Football Kenya Federation. You see? While in essence, it is those clubs, the way perhaps the chaos that are being created there. Why are these chaos being created? A lot of people are benefiting out of chaos. And this is something that happens nationally, not even only in football clubs. There's a lot of benefit that happens when the environment is chaotic. And we must first start addressing that. Before we do that, then we start jumping to FKF, then we start jumping to the Ministry of Sport and all that. Okay, that is done. That is from the club level. Nobody wants to actually improve football in this country. You can see it from how those clubs are run. We're mentioning Gor Mahia and FC Leopards, for instance. They have the opportunity to be the trendsetters on the young Uniteds that are coming. But what we're seeing from them, we cannot aspire to become like them, for instance. Okay, now let's go maybe to what I was saying about the differences that we have. Of course, there are big differences. And of course, some of these things, even the government itself is not helping. Because I feel like we're in this country, Kenya. And, for instance, I always feel like the government should look at football from another angle. Should look at football as an opportunity provider, as an employment provider, and a contributor to the GDP of the country. But do they look at it from that angle? Absolutely no. When do they come in? They come in when there's chaos. Again, they come in when there's Football Kenya Federation or corruption and all that. But where are they to make sure that this country becomes a football powerhouse, for instance, and many people are employed in football, and from that we get something of the cake when it comes to the GDP. But if we keep on always just coming when there's a commotion, when there's chaos, we create chaos and all that, and try to flex our muscles and show superiority here and there. We are the custodians of, no, it is us who's the government and we need to do this. We are never, ever going anywhere. If I have to say it plainly today on Citizen TV, I still feel like this interference is wrong. As much as football right now is not going the right way, the interference is wrong because even the person who's interfering in football.
I want to interject. You say the interference is wrong.
Yes.
You do realize that the interference did not happen overnight. You do realize that with this, are you suggesting that what the government should be doing, like the only time they would want to audit the FKF, the only time they would want to know the affairs of FKF is when FKF is asking for money from them. Because if you ask for money from me and I'm funding your activities, then every other time you want to come to ask for money, I must ask you, to what use did you put the money that I first gave you?
Thank you.
Because most FAs, and especially African football associations, are not self-sustaining. So the government has to be there because they are a major, major stakeholder.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Briefly,
I'll finish.
Let me finish. Boniface is waiting.
Let me finish with
my
this.
Two guests are waiting.
I can finish with this.
Okay.
I'll say, Waiga, today, if I have to come, I have to first, like for real, be a facilitator, for sure. I have to come and make sure that I can give you some money to make sure that your business thrives. And then I will come and ask you, this business is not thriving, for instance. I have been contributing to this, you get? But I cannot just sit on the side. And then when your business is not thriving, that's when I come and say, hey, you, I think there's some things that you're doing here that are not right. What I'm saying, it's, okay, the interjection, the way the timing and everything is wrong.
That is your concern?
Exactly.
Jaro, briefly.
Well, you know, I interact with the Kenya football fans mostly. And 80% of Kenya football fans are saying they don't want the chairman of federation. My friend,
Why?
Just a minute, I'm coming to you. Ulikuja na nia ya ku defend Nick Mwendwa. Do you think just a minute.
I am here
okay, my question is this.
Yes.
Do you think Nick Mwendwa is a good football manager or not?
I am not.
Nick Mwendwa is not here.
I am
not
talk about Nick.
So I'm going to we're talking about football. Football is more than one man.
Jaro, you're getting it wrong.
Who's the president of football?
Actually, now Waiga,
may I
talk? 1 minute, please. If we came here to talk about Nick Mwendwa, perhaps, then maybe we can have another show where we can talk about it. But today, we want to talk about football, the wrongs that are in football, who the stakeholders.
Hold on, gentlemen. Let me allow. Okay, you've made your point. Panaduda, come in.
Waiga, I think it is important. We are talking about serious stuff. I don't expect this. The whole country wants to see what we do with our current situation and what solutions do we put in place for the future development of the sport. I mean, what I'm hearing here did not bring us here, okay? Now, we have two situations according to what I think. We have the current crisis where there are three important stakeholders, partners, are not reading from the same script. We need to deal with that. Then we need to look at what is our end game with respect to what is happening. And then we need to look at, probably, if there's not enough time, on what are the best practices all over that we can borrow and bring into the country so that we can also move in the right trajectory. So that all these examples of what Taiwo is talking about, what Boni is talking about, we can be there at some particular time. Because when you want to start talking about what happens in England, for instance, for how long has what is happening in England been in place? You get? We are where we are because of all these wrong moves that have been there. Don't forget that the first caretaker or whatever committee came in place in 1972. And don't also forget...
In this country?
Yes.
So and we've been here before.
And don't also forget that the first time that Kenya qualified to participate in the Cup of Nations finals was also in 1972. So it has not been bleak through and through. But there has been a systematic, disconnect at some point that has caused us to be where we are. For instance, Leslie Okudo, a one-time chairman at Gor Mahia Football Club, came up because he saw this way back and decided that it is important for clubs, and Gor in particular, to shelve this issue of our community, Gor Marwa, so to speak in Luo. Yeah? And they chased Leslie away with those grand ideas that we are now talking about. For your information and for the information of everybody else, we have Gor Mahia Limited, which had been registered, I think, 2 decades ago. But because of Yetu, Leslie and the rest of those other people who had come up with this idea had to shelve it because people turned wild against this kind of idea, So there's nothing new that we are talking about that people have never thought about. You see, currently, we are talking about Yanga, we are talking about Simba. Okay? Now, these guys are doing exactly what people like Leslie had thought of in the 90s, early 90s or mid 90s. So I come back to what I was talking about earlier, that we need a paradigm shift in terms of how we manage football or how we administer football. And both FIFA and CAF realized that left by themselves, the clubs will not be in a position to do or to expose some of these, structural administrative changes that would systematically help them, to grow or to change from the rudimentary effects of, the yesteryear administration into the modern, business aspects of how football needs to be run. So let's be clear. You remember I did mention that we don't need emotions here. Yeah? This is a national crisis. We don't need emotions here. So we need to be focused. We have a crisis at hand. Yeah? What do we do? What are the consequences of what is happening now? Because all these grand things that we are talking about, trying to borrow from wherever we are talking about, cannot take place if we do not sort out this mess which we currently have. And
I want to take that discussion forward. I'll come back to you in Taiwo. I'm coming to you. I know you've been waiting to speak. But Boniface, there's now a caretaker committee in place, right? And I believe their mandate is, if I'm not wrong, 6 months or so. What do you think they should focus on? Because Aduda's put it right, we're in a crisis, we need to move out of it. What do you think that caretaker committee should focus on?
Thank you. At least I'm back again. My advice for the two gentlemen, Jaro Soja and the other guy, let's try to take this thing soberly. Let's not try to express our emotions here. It's football we are talking about. We are not talking about actually individuals, because at the end of the day, they'll go and our football will remain. So my answer is, or my contribution is, there's a caretaker committee. And the caretaker committee has been put in place to look into what actually has been affecting our football, and to me is not actually to the club levels, but actually to the to the top management of the federation. So my advice, the caretaker committee, let them sit down, let them move with speed, because we don't have time. You remember, I can tell you that at the moment, the league has been stopped. The clubs, they're not sure of what is going to happen, maybe in the next 2-3 days. And to me, I think the other issue is they also have to look into the 6 months when it elapses. Are we going for elections, or what's going to happen in between? So there's so much that actually they have to look into. They have a lot of job in their hands, and I'm wishing they act with speed and with diligence, and they should also involve other stakeholders who are there in football, so that we do not, at least we try to avert the situation that has been there, where things are just being run from one center, because football is not centered in one place. It's all over. I've been all over the country, moving all over the country. I've been seeing what's affecting people, clubs here and there. So there's so much. So the caretaker committee has to move with speed. And as my last thing is, let them involve those guys who are in football. Let them involve the chairmen of the club. Let them involve the fans into it. Let them know exactly where the problem has been.
Participation.
So that come back to where we are.
Okay, Taiwo, how do we get out of this hole?
I resonate with the frustrations. I mean, I do obviously, my father was a Gor Mahia fan and told me much about the club. I understand there's a cultural aspect to Gor Mahia and AFC Leopards in relation to where they originate from and the communities. And for me, if we're looking at taking Gor Mahia or AFC into the corporate structures, we're not taking away the existing societies. What we're saying is the society can be a shareholder in the corporate structure. If they still want to have elections in the society, they should have elections and appoint the chairman into the corporate structure. But the corporate structure has to be treated like a business. I mean, we have hotels here, we have tourism, we have accommodation, yeah? No one is telling the tourism sector or the accommodation sector, no, you cannot incorporate, or no, you cannot build these structures. Because if we did, they wouldn't be able to employ Kenyans, they wouldn't be able to build the facilities in which we all enjoy when we go out on a Friday, Saturday night. So we have to look at our football clubs in the same way. If we want Gor Mahia to be sustainable, we have to explain, look, yeah, maybe in 1972 or whenever it was, there were ideas to incorporate, but we have to explain it and make it clear that we're not taking away the club and it's not being owned by any one person. We are using this vehicle to invest capital, to build these training facilities, so all the young people in Kenya can be trained, can be developed in the sport of football. And we're also building stadiums, so when you come to the stadium, you can feel like you're getting value for your money. Because for me, 12 years have gone by and I've only seen Nyayo Stadium in Kasarani. And Kenya being a superpower in the East Africa economy, 6th largest economy in Africa, we have expressways, we have hotels, malls being built everywhere. Big houses, very nice. Our GDP for our wages is 5.5%. It's growing every year. So Kenyans can afford to go to a good stadium when they can afford to buy a Gor Mahia shirt or AFC Leopards shirt, and players can be paid a decent wage. So I think what we've got to do is look at the commercial feasibility of these clubs and try to bring the culture into that aspect and make sure that they can be sustainable for the benefit of Kenyans. It's not for 1 or 2 people.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What's your message to the caretaker committee?
First, I'm glad that you said we're not supposed to talk about individual, but it's the individual who brought this problem. Now, to the caretaker committee, please let them bring back football to the people. Let these guys go to mashinani. Kenya tuko na talents. Wacha ile individual akona sema tuna talents Kenya. We have got football talents in Kenya. So let the caretaker committee bring back football to people. Waende mashinani, kuna talent mashinani. Vijana wacheze ball, kila mtu enjoy.
Short and sweet. Dexter, message to the committee.
Okay, I'll just say that...
Despite the fact that you're unhappy about the current setup, yes.
Yeah, of course, yes. And whatever it is, they are there. They found themselves there. Let them just act in the best interest of the game for the moment that they are there. They act in the best interest of the game and make sure that whatever they do is actually to put us in the right focus of football. No politics, no anything, football, for the moment that they are allowed to be there.
Okay. Brenda?
Everyone seems to be talking of a looming ban, but do we really understand what the ban will mean? Like, does the masses understand what the ban will mean to us should it come? Because the caretaker committee, as it is constituted, is what FIFA claims not to recognize. So I wonder if FIFA at any point would want to recognize, let's say, a body that will be elected and by elections organized by the caretaker committee as their mandate within the 6 months and hand over them to FIFA. Are FIFA going to recognize that body? Definitely no, with the stalemate that we are in right now. So what a ban would mean to us, for those who do not understand what a FIFA ban would mean, we may be quick to say, let the ban come, let the ban come. Yes, the ban can come. We do not have major footballing activities in the next 2 years. We're already out of AFCON. We are already, most of our clubs, only Gor Mahia and Tusker are still in CAF Continental football, which I also don't think we may perform in a better, our performance this year is not going to be any better, given the results that we just saw in the first round of the CAF preliminaries in the CAF confederations. So what a ban would mean is that we would not have a chance to participate in all these tournaments. We would not have a chance to maybe train referees, train coaches. Any kind of financial support from FIFA will end at that point. And any other country will not be allowed to be in contact with us, either by playing the friendlies, either by playing in any kind of FIFA-sanctioned tournaments, which leaves us as a shell. So we can't play our league locally, but to what end? You look at the kind of the trophy prize that we are giving our clubs currently, which at times you find that the clubs are being paid 4 million for the male team. The female team take away 350,000 as a prize money for winning the league. An amount that is not even enough to sustain a club for a season or a few games, and that is what they're given. Yet at times they're not even being paid. The amounts are not being paid out promptly. So, do we want a ban? Definitely no. Is it inevitable? Yes, it is. What happens if the ban does not come? Tombwana asked that question. If the ban does not come, the purpose of this stalemate that we have right now is we are given a chance to make corrections, to make amends to what we have. So my call to the caretaker committee or to the Ministry of Sport, would be, can we consider dialogue at this point so that FIFA has given us that chance. Let us listen to what they have to say. If we cannot avail the individuals that they want, or we cannot reinstate the individuals that they want reinstated before we can start, then FIFA also need to compromise, because if this is for the good of our game, then compromise has to be on all the parties that are concerned.
Okay. The others who haven't spoken, and you've spoken at least twice.
Just 1 second.
One second, please.
1 second, please. Waiga, Kenya football fans are saying there's no dialogue to bring back the individual who is said to be corrupt.
Okay.
And Waiga, just one question to you, please. Why do you think FIFA must defend the individual corrupt person?
I don't sit at FIFA.
Then we'll feel that FIFA is also corrupt.
Okay, those are your views. I don't sit at FIFA, so I can't speak on their behalf. Nyangi, we still have you. Judith Nyangi, we still have you on the line. What's your message to the caretaker committee this evening?
Okay, what I can say...
Yeah.
What I can say, Waiga, is, first of all, the procedure that was taken to bring about the caretaker committee was wrong, and therefore it is known that the caretaker committee is there illegally, and up to now, Mwendwa is not yet guilty. He's still innocent until proven guilty. And he remains the FKF president of Kenya, and the caretaker committee is not recognized by FIFA. So bringing about what we expect from the caretaker committee a body that is not even recognized. You know, it's like we don't understand what we are talking about. What you can say is we have to make sure that we don't get banned. And you see, people accusing Mwendwa, even today we were in court, he was not even charged.
Yeah.
All the hulabalus that were in the media, about 513 million, so many big figures to win the public opinion was very wrong. So let us be sober. Let the investigations proceed. If he'll be found guilty, let the law take its course. But coming into a TV station and discussing one person is very wrong, because this guy has also supporters. And we have to focus on our football. We should keep off from malice. There is malice that we are seeing, which is not right. And it is not good for football. Somebody like me, I love football, as you know. So with me, I can be in football with any president there. But let the law take its course.
Fair enough. Tom Bwana, you spoke of a revolution, but man, there are so many opinions on which way to take this game forward.
Exactly. In that revolutionary mind, I'm still thinking my advice to the caretaker committee is that they should take advantage of the goodwill they have from government as at this moment. They've been put there by government, therefore they enjoy some goodwill from it. One of the proposals that I will be giving to them is to ensure that is to lobby the government to, put into practice the proposal that proposal to give tax incentives to organizations or companies that invest in local sport. If you invest in local sport, you give it that way. We are going to have an influx of investment in local. I don't just sponsorship. I'm talking about investment. By investment, it only means you're going to demand accountability for the shillings that you put into the game, be it at club level, be it at national level. It is going to be that. So if you get that incentive, you're going to get a lot of, well, it is a proposal, it's there, but we need it to be put into practice. That will be a big score for the caretaker committee, so that we don't just have another caretaker committee statistically.
Tom Bwana, thanks so much for that. Our time is almost up. I want to take 3 videos, final comments from each of my panelists, and then we wrap this up. Tomorrow is a new day. Let's play those videos. There's some questions that Kenyans have this evening.
We have a great potential in terms of our young people, and even investing in this football as a career. We can go far if the government can put structures in place, and FKF, if it can work together with the government, we can streamline this, even borrowing from our international retired players who have a vast experience, wealth of experience in what happens in other countries. Thank you.
Let the ban come. I wish even they would have banned Kenya even 3 days ago, so that Uganda will get a chance to qualify for the last round of the matches of the World Cup qualifiers. So that ban should come as fast as possible. There is the court of arbitration for sports where we can go and appeal. How many countries have appealed FIFA ban and have managed to come over it?
As much as I don't support the decision by Amina to put in place a caretaker committee, I also don't think that Mwendwa is the best guy to handle football affairs in this country, and I really do hope that FIFA does ban Kenya, so that we get time to restructure, re-strategize, and put our house in order.
Yeah, I think as a nation we have missed it big time. Starting from how we manage sports in general, we must give the mandate of sports management to sportsmen and women in this nation, starting from the CS, PS or whatever, all the chairpersons of all boards of sports. Like, these are the people who will be able to help us, because they know about the game, they know about sports. But if we put people into position of leadership just because of whatever reasons, but they don't know anything about sports, these are the mistakes that we are putting ourselves in.
All right, and I like the views of that last gentleman there, especially. I think he helps us to conclude this. I want to get a final 30-second comment from each of my panelists as we wrap this up. Jaro, let me start with you. Your final word on this discussion today.
If you must have Nick Mwendwa as chairman of Football Kenya Federation, then let FIFA ban us. Football Kenya is not for Mwendwa.
Okay.
We have so many people.
Thank you for that, Dexter.
Let's not be emotional. Let us come together as football stakeholders and find a lasting solution to this impasse. And let us not throw words around. Let us just be controlled and find a solution. The solution is not a ban. It's not going to help us because football is so big. A lot of people are in football. So let us find the solution to this problem amicably among ourselves.
Thank you. Brenda.
It's not the first time we are here in this situation. We can still get out of it, and we can still get out of it without hurting either of us. So let us handle this very soberly.
Okay. Boniface, if we still have you on the line, what's your last word on this, briefly?
Yeah, briefly, I go back again to transparency and accountability. Let's try to get there. Let's try to restructure our clubs from the grassroots level to the national level and to the committee. Kindly, when you look into the voting system of the National Football Federation presidency, kindly do away with that thing called the delegates voting system. That's what has actually put us where we are at the moment.
Okay, thank you for that. Nyangi, your final word?
Yeah, my final word is we have to be sober. Let us come together as football stakeholders so that Kenya cannot get the ban. You know, if we get the ban, so many people will be jobless. So many of our players who are playing outside, for example, these young players like Amos Nondi, they will lose the opportunity to play outside, like in Marcelo. So you see people like they are also just reasoning as if the life will have to continue. You know, these players, they rely on football, not to Sagwenya like him there in the studio. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Tom Bwana.
Yeah, well, I would just like to say that the same pressure that football stakeholders, media, fans have put on the FKF that has just been disbanded by government, the same pressure should be put on this committee as well and subsequent office holders. That same pressure is the only thing that is going to sustain the football spirit in this country.
Thank you, Tom, for that. Taiwo?
I mean, I think...
You've had so much today.
Look, football is a business, and I just think the committee obviously are being put here to find the best way of resolving whatever allegations are being put. FIFA statutes, I would encourage them to look at. I think the clubs are given the power to actually not recognise the FA body, and therefore FIFA can expel an association based on those principles. So I don't think everyone should look at it like a cliffhanger. If FIFA take the decision to ban Kenya for wanting to get transparency and accountability, I don't think that's a bad reason to be banned. And like one of the people said on that video, the Court of Sport, the Court of Arbitration for Sport is actually the court that can overturn a ban. So I don't think we should look at a ban like a cliffhanger, and if there is a justification for wanting to find accountability and to restore the integrity of the sport, I think that should come before, I guess, everybody's self-interest, and therefore I think the committee can be in that position to restore integrity in the sport.
Thank you for that. When I do that at the beginning, you told us not to be emotional.
Oh, yes.
I don't know if we failed the test.
I think...
What's your last word?
Well, I'm still very concerned because from where I sit, really what we have taken time to discuss here is not helping us solve what is at stake. What was the initial intended purpose for doing what we did? 2, is there a difference between what FIFA is asking for, the normalization committee, and the caretaker committee put in place by the CS? 3, we are talking about FKF. FKF, as it is now, has its constitution. According to its constitution, they have a mandate. Any office that is elected has a mandate to run for 4 years. They have just done one year. 3 years are pending. We are talking about elections in the next 6 months. How are we going to actualize that? Does the caretaker committee have the mandate? Yeah? Now, if we are talking about elections in the next 6 months, it therefore means that there are certain constitutional amendments to the current existing constitution. Who is going to adopt this? And who is going to ratify all this? So there's a lot more that we need good time to discuss, not what we came here for today.
Thank you for that. I think today, Aduda, to answer your question, Kenyans now understand some of the challenges that ail Kenyan football, but you've put it right. There's a major challenge. That's a crisis right now that we need to look at beyond who supports who and so forth. You know what? I do a lot more politics now than football. And man, football is more emotional than politics. But that's the state of our football this evening. You've had views from different stakeholders. I want to thank each of my guests who've joined us, those who are joining us virtually. Tom Bwana, thank you so much. Judith Nyangi, together with Boniface Ambani, who's a retired football Kenyan professional, who've joined us on the line. Here in studio, we've been joined by Jaro Soja. We have Dexter Otieno here. We have Brenda Ongalo, together with Taiwo Atieno, and of course, Lodvik Aduda, helping us just really understand what's happening in the world of football at a time like this. Thank you so much for having tuned in. Thank you for all your SMSs, too many to read, and the tweets as well. But these are discussions we'll continue to have. We've been challenged by Aduda to have more like this, to allow us to really dig deep into exactly what is happening, so you can expect to see some of these faces in other conversations as well. But we have to wrap it up here. It's practically midnight, and we need to all head home. On behalf of the whole team that's made this broadcast possible, thanks for having tuned in. Our sign language interpreter, who's worked very hard this evening, is Yula Nzale. We can keep engaging. 22422 is the SMS line. # Monday Report. We'll see you tomorrow. At least I'll be back then. Have a good night. Stay safe. Thank you so much for having tuned in. Bye-bye.